Hey gang, it's Jeff and welcome to another live stream. Today we have Ari with us. He's going to be talking about Medicare and I'm going to be covering Social Security. As always, we're going to cover both a mix of emailed questions that were sent in over the last few days and those that have come up live on the chat. And we are, of course, fortunate to have our producer Jill with us, and she's going to be the one narrating the questions. Just a couple of housekeeping items. The standard disclaimer, we are in New York and I have to read this disclaimer, but many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can go over in a live stream. Therefore, this live stream is for educational purposes only. We haven't had the chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act upon. For any specific situation, make sure you talk with a qualified professional. Speaking of qualified professionals, if you have questions about Medicare, make sure you give our partner chapter a call, 440-703-1224, and they can definitely help you with any questions that you might have. Having said all of that, why don't we get going now? And Jill, do you want to lead the way?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. And so we have a lot of questions that have been emailed in. And so we will be asking those. But if you are here live, we do encourage you to please put your questions into the chat box so that we can answer those live tonight with Ari and Jeff. So we don't have anything in the chat box yet. So we'll start with email. But if you are on live and you did email in a question and it was emailed in before 4 p.m. Eastern time, then we will let us know in the chat box what name you used when you sent that question in, and then we'll go to that question right away and get that answered for you. So let me start with our first question, and it will be for Ari, a Medicare question from Catherine. I recently turned 65 and plan to continue working for at least another 2 years. My spouse is 75. We are both currently covered under my employer's high deductible health plan with an HSA. I have worked for this employer for 17 years. When I turned 65 last month, I did not enroll in Medicare Part A or Part B so that I could continue contributing to my health savings account. My spouse enrolled in Medicare Part A at age 65, but I did not enroll in Part B since he has remained covered through my employer's group health plan. My question is, when we eventually transition to Medicare, either when I retire or if next year's employer plan becomes more expensive than Medicare, what specific documentation or information will we need from my employer to avoid late enrollment penalties for Medicare?
This is really a two-part question. So the first part Catherine is asking is, she intends to remain contributing to her HSA while she works for another 2 years. Does she need to do anything with the Social Security Administration and her Medicare? And the answer is no, you don't need to do anything with your Medicare right now. Don't do anything with your Medicare right now. We don't want you to enroll in Part A. If you were to enroll in Part A, it would be backdated up to 6 months. That's the rule. 6 months. If you're turning 65, you would discontinue the month before you turn 65. If you're past 65, that's where the 6-month backdating would come into play. So since you're planning to work for another 2 years, don't do anything with your don't do anything. Do not enroll in Medicare. The second part to Catherine's question is, what proof will she need to provide in 2 years? And the answer is Form L564, which your employer is highly familiar with. It's a one-page form. They will attest that you've had work-provided coverage for you and your spouse, and you will submit that to Social Security in order to prove that you are entitled to enroll in Part B by way of the special enrollment period. So that's the form you'll need in 2 years, Form L564.
All right. Ari, we have a few questions kind of in that same theme of turning 65. So I think I'll give you a few more of those, and then we'll move to the live chat. Robert is asking, I turned 65 on April 30th. I'm currently covered under my wife's employer health plan. She plans to retire in July, and at that point, we may lose our employer medical coverage. My questions are, can I wait until July or August to enroll in Medicare without facing any penalties? If so, which parts of Medicare should I enroll in and when? I plan to start Social Security in April when I turn 65. Does enrolling in Social Security at that time affect when I need to sign up for Medicare? What's the best way to handle the timing so there's no gap in coverage and no late enrollment fees?
It's dealer's choice. So it depends on when your spouse retires. If your spouse retires in July, then we would want your Medicare to begin August 1st. If your spouse retires in August, then we would want your Medicare to begin September 1st. So the answer depends on when your spouse retires. You won't have any issues activating your Medicare then. And I can get into the technicalities of which enrollment period you would use, but that's the straightforward answer to your question.
All right, great. So let's take Donna's question. Hers is, I currently have health insurance through the health insurance marketplace. I turned 65 in September. My questions are, do I need to cancel my marketplace plan when I turn 65, or can I keep it until the end of the year? When should I enroll in Medicare? And do I need to sign up for Medicare Part B at the same time? What's the best timing to avoid coverage gaps, penalties, or having to pay back any marketplace subsidies?
So just to summarize, Donna is turning 65 in September, which means that her Medicare ought to begin September 1st. And so Donna would cancel her Affordable Care Act coverage in August, so that way she's not double paying for premiums come September.
All right. Let's move to the chat. We have SLG 3226 that is asking, when applying for Social Security, is it possible to have the Medicare Part A loop back date adjusted to the same date Social Security starts? I would like to continue contributing to my health savings account.
I'll take this one. It's actually a Medicare question. And the answer is, if you're planning to continue contributing to your HSA, do not take any part of Medicare. There's a problem though. Starting Social Security will automatically turn on your Medicare Part A if you're already 65. And if you're not yet 65, then the government will automatically enroll you in Part A on the first of the month in which you turn 65. So that's the rub here. And this is something to talk about one-on-one depending on your situation. If you're going to remain employed and you like your employer coverage, but you still want to turn on your Social Security, you just won't be able to contribute to the HSA.
Okay, next question. Jeff, it seems like there's a lot of Medicare coming in right now, but we will be getting to some Social Security here soon. All right, so JS is asking, if I retired in 2024, but retired in 2025, do I owe Irma for 2024? If I retired in 2024, but retired in 2025.
IRMA stands for the Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and it's a high earner tax on your Medicare. It applies to someone who files solo and earns more than $109,000 modified adjusted gross, or someone who files jointly and earns more than $218,000 modified adjusted gross. Now, it's a 2-year look back. So for this year, it's based on your 2024 tax return. Here's the good news though. You've had a change in life circumstance. You retired in 2025, which means that you should use Form 44 for the purpose of appealing your IRMA if the government considers you a high earner based on your 2024 tax return. And it would materially change which bracket you fall into. Form 44 is the form to appeal your IRMA.
All right, Jeff, let's bring you into the conversation. Stephen has a question. I am 55 and my wife is 41. I realize Social Security is still many years away, but given our age difference, should that affect my strategy for claiming benefits early at full retirement age or delayed? My wife has her own career and will qualify for Social Security based on her own work credits and earnings, although her benefit is expected to be lower than mine. Should the age gap and the difference in expected benefits change how we think about claiming strategies?
So the answer is yes. First of all, let me break this down into three different. Effectively, there are three different things to think about here. One is the spousal benefit, one is the survivor benefit, and one is your wife's own benefit. And with a age gap of 14 years, there are some things to think about. So first of all, with the spousal benefit, with your spouse 14 years younger than you, even if you waited until age 70 to claim Social Security, she wouldn't even be eligible to claim the spousal benefit. So you personally can wait as long as you want, because she doesn't have, you have to go first and claim your benefit before your wife can claim the spousal benefit. But because of the age gap, there isn't really a situation where she's going to be waiting for you, where she qualifies for the spousal benefit and she's going to be waiting for you. The second is, and probably a related question in terms of strategy, which is, if you're the higher earner, it sounds like you are, and you want to optimize your survivor benefit, this doesn't become a problem. For a lot of people, this becomes a problem, because if you want to optimize the survivor benefit is basically your benefit when you claim it or when you pass, adjusted for your partner's age. If you waited until age 70, then your partner is going to get the highest survivor benefit possible. And if they wait until their own full retirement age, they'll get your 124%. That's what you get if you wait until age 70. So the survivor benefit becomes larger the larger you wait. And the third is the issue with your spouse and her own Social Security. Now, there is a title, there's a concept called deemed filing. Now, deemed filing basically means that if someone is entitled to two benefits, their own benefit on their own earnings record and the spousal benefit, if they qualify for both, then you will have deemed to have filed for the larger of the two. It's called dual entitlement. That's the term for what the situation is. And so this is something to consider. If your spouse claims her own benefit, but she's entitled to your benefit, and that's the larger benefit, immediately she will get the larger of the two benefits. Now, if for whatever reason in this situation, because of the age difference, there wouldn't really be a different outcome. Even if you waited till age 70, she wouldn't even qualify for her own benefit. But if the age gap wasn't as far apart, then this becomes a bigger problem for folks, because then you have to deal with the fact that you take one benefit, your own benefit, early while you're waiting for your spouse to claim his benefit, and then immediately when he claims his benefit, you qualify for the spousal benefit. It's a lot more challenging when the age gap is closer together. So those are the things to think about. I wish I could just give you an answer and say, given your specific situation, this is exactly what you should do. But unfortunately, that would take a bit of interviewing, talking about things like what are your objectives and a whole host of other issues, the interplay between your retirement savings and your goals. But those are, I'm framing the issues, the big issues to think about here.
All right, great. Land Park Colby is asking, I just turned 64. What should I do now? When should I start?
I think Land Park is referring to Medicare. Nothing for you to do right now, Land Park. You're an early worm. Congratulations on doing your research by attending this type of live with Holy Schmidt, and perhaps even by checking out It's Not That Complicated. You're well on your way to being prepared for what to expect when you turn 65. You will be bombarded by unsolicited phone calls, spam text messages, and direct mailers at 64 and a half, you can just push those to the side because you are going to be in great shape. And it just depends on whether you're still working or you're already retired.
And by the way, gang, for those of you, we've had a really large number of people who have requested the digital download for Ari's book. It's not that complicated. If this is something that you would like, just send an email to livestream@holyschmidt.com and just put something in the comment section like Ari's book or something similar, and we will send it out to you within a few days. We've sent out quite a few copies so far. So Ari, thank you for your generosity and making it available to the folks that ask. But the one thing I'm going to ask you not to do is don't put your personal information in the comment section, because I'll have to delete it, or someone will have to delete it, because we don't want you to get spammed by people. And as soon as somebody puts their email address in there or a phone number, then it creates a really uncomfortable situation for them. So we pull it as fast as we see it.
Okay.
And one more thing, right now I'm in the final stage of proofing the 2026 edition of the book. So Jeff, if you just wait 1 week, I will have the 2026 edition ready for your viewers, and you give it to them complimentary.
Great. Thank you, Ari. So gang, if you send in your email to me or to livestream@holyschmidt.com, it's going to be about a week before we get it off to you. And for those of you that have got the digital copy over the last couple of weeks, we'll make sure we get you the 2026 updated version as soon as it comes out.
All right, great. And so I'm wondering if this answers Scott's question for you, Jeff, of what is the email address to send questions to you?
Livestream@holyschmidt.com is the inbox for all questions and anything live stream related. So this is the place to go.
All right. Ryder, thank you for emailing in a question. I don't see it on my list. So if you sent it in under the name Ryder, it's not on the list. Questions that end up on the list are going to be on Medicare or Social Security. So if it's not in one of those areas, it probably will not have been on the list. But if you did put it under another name, please let me know and we will get to it right away.
And again, we did get questions about things like 401k contributions and IRA contributions, Roth. It happens all the time. But in order to really focus in on what people come to the live stream for, we really focus in on Social Security retirement benefits and Medicare. But that doesn't mean that we won't get back to you, but we just won't get back to you live.
Okay. Not sure about, Karen is asking, do you know of a good retirement withdrawal calculator? Is there such a thing?
That would be one of those questions that I just mentioned. There are hundreds of them out there. Just go into Google and type in retirement withdrawal calculator, and you'll see a bunch that come up.
Okay.
We can't sponsor or mention specific ones, but if they're in the top 3 search results, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Okay, great. Ariel fan is asking a Medicare question. I think I need tips on obtaining healthcare insurance for my wife after I retire in a few months. She'll need coverage for about 3 years.
Well, great news. If you're still working, Ariel fan, then your wife will be entitled to COBRA for up to 36 months on your employer coverage. So that's one avenue you can choose. The second is you could shop your spouse's options on the Affordable Care Act exchange and see what type of premium subsidy they might be eligible for and if that would be affordable to you. And then the third and final option to explore would be a private catastrophic health insurance plan, which if your spouse is relatively healthy, doesn't go to the doctor very often, perhaps pay for those visits out of pocket. And then if something major were to happen, you have catastrophic insurance as a stop loss to your out-of-pocket expenses.
All right. Keith is asking a Social Security question. I'm eligible for Social Security on April 3rd. I'm taking Social Security at 62. I've already applied and wonder if the $24K I can make a year starts in my eligible month in April or when I receive my first check in May.
So your payments are in arrears. So when you receive your May payment, it is for the month of April, and your 24K is, so you have two aspects here. First, there's the aspect of what is the amount you can earn once you start drawing Social Security. And if this is a non-full retirement age year, then the answer is until you start receiving Social Security, you can earn as much as you want. So up through March of 2026.
Jeff, you're very popular.
I don't think it's me. I actually think it might be Jill, but I'm not entirely sure. My phone is off.
Spousal privilege.
The 24,000, you could earn 10 times that up until you qualify for Social Security, and you're not going to have any issues with the threshold. Once you qualify for Social Security, the annual limit is 24,480, and if this is your first year, then it's 24,480 divided by 12. So it's that per month. And the reason the first year rule is the way that it is, because people could end up in a situation where they go into the year and they've earned too much, and so they put this provision in to make it easier for someone to earn up until the time they take Social Security, and then they break it down to a monthly provision after that. If this is the year that you reach full retirement age, then the amount is $65,160 in the full retirement age year, and then after you reach full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want.
And so he's also asking, will he receive his first check in May or June?
It would be in June. So when you apply, you get paid 1 month in arrears, and that would be the month after you qualify. Is the first month that you would actually qualify for a payment. So it'd be a month beyond that. It would be in June.
All right. So TJMC Tube Ari said that the first question you answered for Catherine was exactly his question as well. So thank you for that.
Of course. And there is one follow-up. Steve is asking a follow-up on COBRA, because in a previous question, I believe it was Ariel fans, they asked about what their wife could do because they're not yet 65. So what do they do for health insurance? And here's the thing. If the person aging into Medicare is coming off their employer coverage to start Medicare, then they are actually entitled to COBRA their spouse or dependents for up to 36 months under federal law. So that's an extension of what is the typical 18 months that you can use COBRA for.
All right, great. So now Vilnius Brilkis. I'm so sorry for not being able to know what that name is, but it is a Social Security question. What happens to a spouse's Social Security when a spouse passes? Does a portion go to the surviving spouse, or does it just stop?
When a spouse, so a family unit, a primary earner and a spouse get two different streams of Social Security. The primary earner gets their own stream, and the spouse gets the spousal benefit. That assumes that the spouse isn't working and has their own benefit. When the primary earner passes, then the spouse gets the primary earner's benefit adjusted for their own age, and so their actual payment goes up, but the combined amount goes down because you don't get both the spousal benefit and the survivor benefit. And there are rules around how the survivor benefit is calculated. If you want to know how the survivor benefit is calculated, go to holyschmidt.com/quick guide, and you'll get a one-page summary that looks like this, and it's totally free. It'll be there for you instantly. and it'll give you a breakdown of the percentage of survivor benefit that you would get depending on the age that the survivor files for the survivor benefit. If they reach full retirement age, then they get 100% of what they're entitled to. And if it's less than, and if they're less than full retirement age, then it'll be discounted back.
Can you just repeat where they can get that quick guide?
Sure. Go to holyschmidt.com/quick guide. And it's QUICKGUIDE. And literally, when you pop in your email address and you hit send, the quick guide will pop up in front of you. You don't even need to wait for it to hit your email. If you want to download it, you have to wait for it to hit your email. But if you want to just look at it, it's right there on the screen.
All right. And so Ari, TJMC Tube, who had the same question as Catherine, he also asked, can you give a brief explanation of what parts C and D are?
Absolutely. So you can picture Medicare as a three-legged stool. Part A is your hospital benefit. Part B is your outpatient benefit. That is everything outside the hospital. And then the third leg of the stool is Part D, your prescription coverage. D is in drugs. Now, what is Part C? Part C is Medicare Advantage. You might see this advertised as an all-in-one plan on commercials, and you could pick your favorite celebrity spokesperson pitching these plans. Joe Namath, William Shatner, Jimmy Walker, you name it. What they're talking about are Medicare Advantage plans. And so Medicare Advantage is a replacement for original Medicare administered by a private insurance company. It's managed care, unlike original Medicare, which is networkless. So this is subject to the private insurance company's terms and conditions. What people really like about Medicare Advantage is that the premium is oftentimes zero. You still owe the Part B premium to the government, which is $202.90 per month for 2026. But the premium for your Medicare Advantage plan might be as low as $0 per month. What people like a lot less are the network restrictions and that it's subject to the private insurance company's terms and conditions. And so here we need to go doctor by doctor and make sure that each one of them accepts the plan. And we also need to make sure that it would cover your prescriptions affordably and meet your needs. Candidly, this isn't going to work very well for someone who enjoys traveling, because if you're going to visit your grandchildren or you have a second home in a different state, you probably want to be able to access care in those places. And so you'd likely be out of network under a Medicare Advantage plan. Whereas under original Medicare, you have the freedom to travel about the country.
All right, great. So we have a question that was emailed in from Linda, and she has a Medicare question. I started Medicare on June 1st, 2025. My question is about deductibles. Do Medicare deductibles reset on January 1st each year, or do they reset based on the anniversary of my Medicare start date, June 1st?
The deductibles are based on the calendar year. So the deductibles reset on January 1st. The Part B deductible for this year is $283. And if you have a Medicare Supplement Plan G, which is the most comprehensive Medicare supplement plan that someone who recently turned 65 can purchase, then that Part B deductible of $283 for the calendar year is also your maximum out of pocket, meaning you will not see another Medicare approved expense once you hit $283.
All right. Greg has a Social Security question. My wife just turned 62 and I am 63. She is currently working and earns under $20,000 per year. She would like to begin claiming her own Social Security benefit now, which would be about $1,500 per month. I plan to delay claiming my benefit until age 65, at which point my benefit would be about $2,000 per month. My health is not great, and it is likely that I will predecease her. If that happens, would my wife be able to step up from her own benefit to a survivor benefit based on my record? Would the survivor benefit equal my full benefit amount, or only the difference between her benefit and mine? And would the fact that she claimed her own benefit early at age 62 limit or permanently reduce the survivor benefit she could later receive. I'm trying to understand whether her claiming early now could negatively affect her survivor benefits later.
Sure. So the survivor benefit, I've said this a few times on the live stream, is one of the rules in Social Security where a politician must have squinted and rounded up rather than rounded down. If you look at the very nature of Social Security, there you feel almost like you're getting nickel and dimed every time something kind of moves away from you. But the survivor benefit's actually a really good benefit in that the SSA give you the benefit of the doubt, and they allow you to do some things that you couldn't do with the spousal benefit, or even if you have your own benefit and you want to switch to a spousal benefit. You can switch from your benefit to the survivor benefit, and there isn't a penalty for doing that. It's the only benefit that you can do that. If this was the spousal benefit, you were talking about switching from the spousal benefit to your own benefit, from your own benefit to the spousal benefit, the SSA is going to give you a bit of a haircut most of the time anyway on the difference between the two, because that's what they do, and you've already started claiming early. The survivor benefit is a special beast, and it should be, frankly, because it is designed to protect the partner who's left behind. So the bigger the spousal, the bigger the primary insured's benefit, the bigger the survivor benefit becomes. And so the answer is you can switch from one to the other, and the penalty won't be you won't get penalized for drawing either a spousal benefit or your own Social Security benefit and later switching to the survivor benefit. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is that the survivor benefit it's a two calculation. It's a two calculation. I don't know how to say it any other way, but it's the primary insured's calculation. And so if someone waits until age 70, they get 124% of their benefit. And then if they pass, the survivor gets that 124%. But if they file early, say age 62, then it's going to be discounted. And if they file up until full retirement age, they can get up to 100% of that 124%. So there are two calculations there, not just one. Again, if you want a good idea of what that might look like, go to holyschmidt.com/quick guide, and you'll see the different age-based increases and reductions. It's not going to explicitly spell it out, but if you're watching this live stream and you have this in front of you, it'll give you a good idea of what that would look like.
Jill, can we hit some Part D questions? I see Lisa emailed in a question and commented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Near the bottom of the Medicare questions.
Okay, Lisa, your question is up. Let's get there. All right. Sorry. All right, just scrolling down. Okay, here we are. Lisa is asking, I have a question about the $2,100 out-of-pocket cap for prescription drugs. I take 2 glaucoma eye drops, and one of them is very expensive. Am I correct in understanding that once I have paid $2,100 out of pocket for my prescriptions, the rest of my covered medications would be provided at no additional cost for the remainder of the year? I currently priced a 12-month supply of both medications at my preferred pharmacy, and my total annual cost would be $4,324.68. I want to confirm how the cap would apply in my situation.
The maximum out-of-pocket cap on Medicare Part D is $2,100 for this year. And Lisa is absolutely correct that once she pays $2,100 towards the cost of her covered prescriptions, she's done. She will not owe anything for the remainder of her covered prescriptions for the rest of the calendar year. Now, your drug plan may have a premium, you're still going to pay for your premium. So your cost might be higher than $2,100 when we look at your premium plus your copay, but you will not spend more than $2,100 in copays on your covered medications for 2026. And that brings me to, I believe, Richard's question about Mounjaro. So under Richard's plan, and sorry if I'm screwing up the name, Richard is on a Part D plan that doesn't cover Mounjaro, which is unfortunate because the window to adjust your prescription drug plan just ended. It ended December 7th. So here's what you can do in the alternative. You can request a formulary exception from your prescription drug plan in order to get the Mounjaro covered. Alternatively, you may have a special enrollment period if you moved, for example, but those are few and far between. So you can either appeal to your drug insurer in order to get the Mounjaro covered, or if you have a special enrollment period, you still may be able to adjust your prescription drug plan, even though the annual enrollment period has passed.
All right, JS has a Social Security question. If my spouse retired at the age of 67, but I am still working, can he collect on my Social Security? How is his portion calculated?
Your spouse retired at age 67, and your question is, can he collect the spousal benefit from you if you haven't filed yet? So the primary insured needs to go first before the spouse can collect his or her own spousal benefit. Unfortunately, there are no exceptions to this. Well, there is one exception, but it's not one that you would want to do. The divorce spouse benefit allows you to bypass this if you've been divorced for 2 years or longer and married for 10 years before that. Not really a great reason to think about that particular situation. But the spousal benefit in all scenarios, the primary earner must file for his or her own Social Security before the spouse can file for the spousal benefit.
All right, a Medicare question from Cold Warrior. I'm turning 65 this year. I have company supplied healthcare, more than 20 employees. Should I enroll in Part A and defer Part B? I will be working for a while. I've heard horror stories.
Not sure of the point on the horror stories. Medicare is perhaps the most popular entitlement program out there. It's right next to Social Security. It pulls in the high 70s, and politicians probably aren't going to touch it for that reason. Medicare is very popular, and it's excellent health insurance. Personally, I can't wait for my spouse and I to be on Medicare because we will pay a lot less than our $6,000 deductible when we move to Medicare. In terms of your situation, if you're happy with your work provided coverage, then there's nothing that you need to do. If you aren't contributing to a health savings account, then yes, go ahead and sign up for Part A, because if you're hospitalized, then it can actually help as secondary insurance with the cost of your hospitalization. But don't take Part B if you're planning to remain on your work provided coverage. The only exception here would be if you work for an employer with 19 or fewer employees, and that's not your situation.
Okay, Michael Wynn has a Social Security question. Is the benefit of paying back your Social Security within a year available more than once for an individual?
Nope. It's a one-time option, and the number of times people actually do pay it back is quite rare, to be frank. But it's available once in a lifetime. So
have you done a video on that?
I have done a video on that. That's why I do the answer instantly on this one. The provision is put in place. Basically, the provision is put in place because sometimes something happens when someone claims Social Security that causes them to file for Social Security earlier than they normally would. You lose your job and you think, this is it. I have no other options. I need to pay the bills. So I'm going to file for Social Security early. And then 6 months later, your old employer switches companies and he calls you up and says, I need you, come back to work for me, now you've got a problem. And that problem is that you are receiving Social Security and you have an earnings limit. Well, you can undo your Social Security just by paying everything back that you received, and it will be as if it never happened, but you can only do it one time.
All right. So Rolf 70 has a question for both of you. When would be the best time for my wife and I to begin our Social Security, and when to start Medicare? I'm 55. My wife is 54. Can I get a call to help with all of my questions?
Well, I'm an educator, so I don't guide people in terms on one-on-one, but we can certainly send your information to Livestream at holyschmidt.com, and we can put you in connection with a certified financial planner, one who acts as a fiduciary, and they can work with you on your specific situation. But unfortunately, I don't take clients. I spent 25 years in financial services, and now I do this full time. But I will help you frame the issues for Social Security, and then Ari can talk about Medicare. With Social Security, there are basically four things to think about. The first is, what do you want to get out of it? Some people want to protect their partner. That's their number one goal. And so they want to maximize the survivor benefit. That would imply that you would, the primary earner, the big earner, would wait as long as possible before they claim Social Security, because that becomes the base of the survivor benefit. If the objective is to maximize the total dollar amount coming out of Social Security, well, that's a different calculation, and it can be done a lot of different ways. The break-even analysis used to be on the Social Security website until I guess they took it down about 15 years ago, because people were looking at it as the holy grail, as the one thing that was which etched in stone, and so everybody was trying to maximize their Social Security by assuming that their personal situation was going to be exactly the same as the break-even calculation. It didn't work out too well for a lot of people. So now most people adjust it based on their own health conditions. If they have a lot of longevity in the family, then they look at it one way. If they don't have a lot of longevity in the family, or they themselves are facing some health issues, they might look at it a different way. So, and then the third is that you're really just trying to manage to a life event. You either want to have a great early retirement, and so you want to take your Social Security early, and so you have more money to spend in early retirement, and you've got the back half covered. Or you don't have the back half covered, you're worried about long-term care, and so therefore you want to maximize the payment in the back half, and you wait longer to do that. And then the last is that you just need the money, and life's been hard. It happens to a lot of people. I would say 40% of people who take Social Security anyway do it. It is the only thing that they receive in retirement. So it's somewhere between 35 and 40%. That's a statistic. And in that particular situation, you just look at the situation and say, is it appropriate for me to go early because I just need the money? The answer might be yes, it might be no. But if you want professional guidance with regard to your specific situation, shoot an email to livestream@holyschmidt.com, and we will come back within a very short period of time with a recommendation on who you can talk to. We have several people that we recommend, and some of them are our fellow YouTubers, some of them are not, but we can come back to you on your specific question. As far as Medicare, I'm going to pass it over to Ari and let him talk about how to manage that situation for someone who's 55 and 54.
So it would be a little premature to have a one-on-one conversation because you and your spouse are 10 and 11 years respectively away from Medicare. It's not that complicated. It's going to be a great starting resource though. And I think that'll really help. And then when you're within 3 months of being eligible for Medicare, that'll really be the time for us to have a one-on-one conversation about your situation and talk about your 3 Ps, your providers, your prescriptions, and your priorities.
All right, great. And just a reminder that then if you do email livestream@holyschmidt.com and put in Ari's book, that will be sent to you complimentary. So if you had just come on later after we announce that, that is free to you if you just send in that email. All right. Let's go to, I don't think we've brought in George's question yet. My full retirement age will be July 2026 and planning to claim my Social Security benefits and continue to work until December 2026 with health insurance under my employer. When is the right time to apply for Medicare Part A and Part B?
So we would want your Medicare to begin January 1st of 2027. So the right time to apply would be in the fall.
All right. And Lisa G is asking a Medicare question as well. My husband will be retiring soon at the age of 69. How soon should he apply for Medicare before he gives up his medical insurance with his company?
We should do it before your spouse retires, so that way there's no gap in coverage. So we'll apply a month or two before your spouse is ready to retire, and we'll specify on the application when we want your spouse's Medicare to begin. We want it to begin on the first of the following month, so that way they're not double paying for insurance. Work coverage will end on whatever the last day of the month is, and then Medicare will begin on the first of the following month. Now, technically, your spouse has 8 months from when they retire in order to apply for Medicare. You don't want to wait, though, because if your spouse waits during that 8-month interim, what's their coverage? They won't have any. They're going to experience a coverage gap because COBRA isn't creditable for the purpose of delaying Medicare. They will not have primary insurance. So we don't want to wait until after your spouse retires. In that event, they won't have healthcare. I've seen people make this mistake all the time, and it's so avoidable. Just reach out a month or two before your spouse is ready to sign off.
So Steve is asking about a previous question, Ari, that you had answered. He said, I thought COBRA was only available for 18 months. Can Ari explain why he said in the earlier example, the wife would be eligible for 36 months?
So we actually addressed this one earlier in the live stream. And if Medicare is the reason why you're coming off your employer coverage, then it actually extends the COBRA window for up to 36 months for your spouse and your dependents.
All right. Art has a Social Security question. I'm 65 in 5 months, planning on applying for Social Security April 1st, 2026. My wife is 64. She will be 65 on April 2nd, 2026. When can she apply for Social Security and receive the spousal benefit? I am the principal earner.
Your wife can file as early as age 62, provided that you go first. Now, the spousal benefit is not based on how much you receive at 65 years and 5 months. It's based on how much you receive at full retirement age. But it will be discounted based on the age of your spouse when she files. And again, going back to this one pager, if you look here, you'll see that the percentage of spousal benefit at age 65, your spouse will get 41.66% of the primary insurance amount, regardless of when you file, because it's based on your spouse's age. Your spouse can get up to 50%, and that happens at their own full retirement age 67 in most cases, or within a month or two of that for this crew anyway. But if they file early, the amount is reduced, but it's a percentage. It's up to 50% of your full retirement age benefit, no matter what age you file for Social Security. But you do need to file first before your spouse qualifies for the spousal benefit.
Okay. All right. Steve is asking Ari, we've heard an Advantage plan is better for folks who spend time. Did we take this earlier? In foreign countries. That advantage covers emergencies better than regular Medicare. Any truth to that?
Some Medicare Advantage plans offer will cover a visit to urgent care when you're outside the country. And it's true that original Medicare doesn't have any coverage except in very rare circumstances, like, for example, when you're on a cruise in U.S. waters, or if you're transiting to Alaska and the nearest hospital is in Canada. It's true that under original Medicare, you will not have any foreign travel benefit. However, if you add a Medicare supplement plan, then certain Medicare supplement plan letter types, for example, Medicare Supplement Plan G or Medicare Supplement Plan N or Medicare Supplement Plan F, include a foreign travel benefit for the first 60 days that you're outside the United States, up to a $50,000 lifetime limit, which can go a long way in other countries, even Western Europe. Just to tell you a quick story, this actually got reported on by the Wall Street Journal. We were helping someone a couple years ago, and they were vacationing in France, and they were hospitalized for a heart condition outside Paris for almost 2 weeks. They racked up $30,000 in hospital expenses. Because they had a Medicare Supplement Plan G, our member advocate team was able to help them get $24,000 in reimbursement, so it didn't ruin their trip.
That's outstanding.
I still recommend trip insurance, though. I still think it has its place. If you need to be medevaced back to the United States, that is a huge bill. We're easily talking tens of thousands of dollars to be medevaced back to the United States, and that's the role of trip insurance. You might get it through your credit card. You may even, if you do a lot of travel, there are policies that I've seen that aren't very expensive that just will give you peace of mind. So trip insurance still has its place. It's not something we offer here at Chapter, but I still recommend it if you're a frequent traveler or if you're going somewhere exotic, or just if you want, again, to not have to worry about it.
All right. Andre has a Social Security question. My wife is 1 year older than me. She will reach full retirement age in 2027, and I will reach full retirement age in 2028. Her own Social Security benefit at full retirement age would be approximately $1,400 per month. The spousal benefit, based on my record, would be approximately $2,000 per month. If she claims her own benefit at full retirement age in 2027, before I file for my benefit in 2028, will she be eligible to receive the full spousal benefit once I file? Or would she only receive a partial or reduced spousal benefit because she claimed before I did?
So in most circumstances, the spousal benefit would be reduced. And it would be reduced because the spouse claimed their own benefit before they reach full retirement age. But in this instance, and this is a rare instance, because your spouse reached full retirement age and claimed their own benefit, there is not an age difference, meaning that they didn't take one early and try to game the system and then take the other one later. They qualified for their own benefit at full retirement age. And so therefore, in this specific instance, you wouldn't see a difference between the spousal benefit when you file for your own benefit and the spousal benefit had you filed early. In fact, in this instance, because your partner's full retirement age, they would get the full amount.
All right. 7009 Tony has a Social Security question. How is Social Security income treated when other spouse still working part-time? Is it considered regular income?
I think your question is probably about taxes on Social Security. And there is a formula for taxes on Social Security, and it's called combined income. And if you have combined income, your combined income number is 1/2 of your Social Security payment plus your adjusted gross income plus tax-free income and foreign income, which virtually no one has, but it does happen. And so in the instance where your spouse is still working and you're claiming Social Security, if your spouse earns a lot of money, your Social Security can be taxed up to 85%. Now, that doesn't mean 85% of your Social Security payment is taxed. It means up to 85% becomes taxable. And that still doesn't mean that you pay taxes on it, because you might have deductions that reduce some, if not all of that. A lot of people do. So even if your Social Security payment is taxable, if you have deductions, like for example, there's a 65 plus deduction that came into effect in 2026. It's $6,000 for one or two individuals if they're married and they're both 65 or older. That's an additional $12,000 that you can take off of your taxable income. And so the odds are very good that you'll pay very little, if any, tax on your Social Security payment if you fall into a normal range. If your spouse makes a lot of money, well, then you probably will need a lot of itemized deductions in order to get into that normal range. But that's a long-winded way of saying it depends. But remember that the tax on Social Security isn't 85%. It's 85%, up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxable depending on how large your combined income is.
All right. So we are 4 minutes to the hour, but we are going to go right up to that hour. So we're going to kind of rapid fire, try to go through as many more questions as we can. Ari, there seemed to be a theme about being abroad. So Crazy Dad has a question. I plan to move abroad next year. I will be turning 65 in 2 years, and my health insurance will be provided by the country I'm moving to. I understand that I'll still be eligible for Medicare Part A, but I do not think I will need to enroll in Medicare Part B. My question is it generally reasonable to decline Part B if I'm living abroad with local health coverage? And what are the long-term consequences or risks of doing so if I later return to the United States?
It is reasonable for expats to decline Part B when they receive health insurance abroad. That strikes me as totally reasonable, because then you avoid the $202.90 per month you'd otherwise owe for Medicare Part B. Here's the thing though, if you change your mind later on and move back to the United States, then you may be faced with a late enrollment penalty for Part B. And it's 10% for every full year in which you were entitled to Part B but didn't take it. So for example, if you live abroad for 5 years, you come back, you might face a 50% late enrollment penalty for Medicare Part B. And that's a lifetime penalty. So it's just worth thinking about what are your long-term plans, not just 3-4 years down the road, but 10-20 years.
Yeah.
All right, great. Svir has a Social Security question. I received Social Security for the last 12 years. I'm now 76 years old. I've continued working and wonder if my benefits could be increased, since I have continued paying into the system, and some of the last years my income has been higher than what my initial benefits were based on.
It could be. The SSA takes your best 35 years and basically discards the rest. So if you had some really big earning years over the last 4 or 5 years or longer, first of all, congratulations, well done. At age 76, if you're improving your base of 35 years, that means you're definitely doing something right. And so, as the Australians would say, good on you. But the second is the calculation is based on your best 35 years. And so it could adjust. Now, the fact is, if you had, let's just say, for example, you had 2 good years in there that were better than your 35 years, that's 2/35 of your Social Security payment. So you're not going to see a surge, but yes, it could go up.
Okay. Grump is sent in a Medicare question and asked if we could answer it. It has to do with TRICARE for Life. But Grump, what name did you send that in as? Because we do not have a question emailed in from Grump. But if you can send us quickly your name, we will try to grab that really quick. All right. So while we're waiting for that, why don't we just...
I think the name is George.
I have it.
Do you see it?
I
Okay,
do.
let's see. Where is
George says,
Is
I'm
it...
retired military and currently covered by TRICARE.
Yes.
My understanding is that when I become eligible for Medicare, TRICARE works in place of or alongside Medicare Part B. So, George, TRICARE for Life is designed to work in coordination with Medicare. You still need to enroll in Medicare Part B. Now, that's the only thing you need to do. So, you do need to enroll in Part B, and then you will have a $0 Medicare supplement plan provided as a thank you for your military service. TRICARE for Life is for those who served our country for 20 years or more and retired with the military. So congratulations to you. And your spouse is also eligible for that as well. And you will further receive excellent prescription drug coverage as well. So the only thing that you and your spouse would need to do is enroll in Medicare Part B. Don't do anything else. Do not sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan. You receive a $0 Medicare supplement plan by virtue of your military service. Wouldn't want to see you do anything to change that.
All right, last question, life down the road is our last question. It's a Social Security question. 69 years old and taking Social Security. I converted some dollars from traditional to Roth IRA, and it is reported as earnings on income tax. Does my Social Security monthly payout bump up with increase of earnings?
Your Social Security monthly payout isn't related to... Sorry, if I understand your question correctly, you're saying that you had a conversion, and because you had a conversion, you're wondering if your Social Security payment went up. The answer is it's unlikely. We'd have to get into more detail about your 401k or your IRA and what exactly happened there. But remember what I just said to the previous Social Security question. The gentleman was, I think he was 76 years old, and he had additional earnings over the course of his post drawdown Social Security drawdown, and he asked about, does it increase the Social Security payment? The amount in his case would be very, very small, and I would say in this situation you wouldn't see a difference, to be completely candid.
All right, we are past the top of the hour. Thank you so much for all of the questions that you've sent in. There's a lot of love and gratitude coming into the chat box. Thank you both to Jeff and Ari. Really appreciating all that you give in these live streams. So, Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out.
All right, gang. Thanks for staying late with us. It's 8:03 New York time, so it's late here on the East Coast. And so thanks for everybody who stayed with us. Ari, thank you for coming on the channel and answering Medicare questions today and for quite a few times now and in the future as well. We very much appreciate you helping the audience with your expertise. Jill, thank you for managing the process here. And as usual, you did an excellent job, and we very much appreciate your producing this live stream. And for those of you, just to wrap it up, if you have Medicare questions, don't forget to give Chapter a call at 440-703-1224. The number is in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Anything that we couldn't get to tonight, if it's not specific to Medicare coverage and you just have a general question, then send it to livestream@holyschmidt.com, and we will try to get back to you on that. And for those of you that are waiting for Ari's book, give it about a week, and we'll get you the new book when it comes out. With that, I think we're done. Gang, we'll see you next Tuesday, and thanks for staying up with us. Take care, everybody.